Yes, ma'am, we are live.
Okay. So, good morning, everybody, and hello and welcome to everyone for this yet another session on NetSet guidance, organized by the Alumni Association of the Department of English, MKBU. Today we have with us Dr. Pujaba Jadeja. She has been, an influential alumni for all of us, actually, an inspirational figure, indeed. And to just to list out a few of her academic achievements, she has been working as an assistant professor in government colleges since 6 years, since 2018, and currently she is also the head of the Department of English at Government Arts and Commerce College, Ahmedabad. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Pujaba. We are glad to have you here, and it's also an amazing fact that some of your students would be joining us as well. So it's a happy occasion for us. And I hope that all the students, all the aspirants have an insightful and information rich session with Dr. Pujaba. So over to you.
Thank you so much for an encouraging introduction. So, uh, so I hope for too many days you all are studying on different subjects and preparing for net and set classes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so without wasting much time, let us begin uh, about the topic me, that is literary theory. It is going to be a bit lengthy because this topic cannot be concluded within 45 minutes only, but I'm just going to give you some of the glimpses of the topics on which you can prepare. And you have already paper solution, so you can go for and find some of the important keys which you cannot miss while preparing for NET and SET exams. Thank you so much. And let us begin. I am sharing my presentation. Whenever you find that I'm not audible or you are not able to view the presentation, you can interrupt me and tell me because I'm not able to see you, right? Is it okay with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Let us begin with reading resources which you must refer while preparing for literary theory. These are some of the names of the books from which you can The Making of Literature by R.A. Scott James. This book is good for providing you the background knowledge or history of literary criticism as well, because as you have studied history of English literature, you must find that there are some features of the age, some historical events, and then all these events are affecting literary writings, right? So, this how the making of literature by R.S. Scott James is influential to get the background knowledge of the era and why some kind of criticism was there, some kind of literary theories were immersed in particular period. So it will give you background information and historical knowledge of the theories. Then book by M.S. Nagarajan is also good because it gives uh, the writer's information. Writer means critics' information and their influential theories. Then, of course, we cannot miss glossary terms by amateur Brahms because in NetSet exams they asked us questions about terms. and the definitions of the terms, who has coined the term. So it is important to uh, study all these terms in detail. Then I must suggest Introduction to Literary Theory is an online course and by NPTEL. There is Sayan Chattopadhyay who has uploaded all the videos in this NPTEL channel. So this course is giving you the detailed information about all the theories of literary criticism from beginning to the post-war theories. So in NetSet exams, they are examining that how deeply you have understood the theory. So that is necessary to study any theory in detail, right? So this course is very beneficial. I would suggest that there are other courses as well, uh, designed by NPTEL, and they are the best ones. So when you are watching online videos for this kind of uh, studies, this kind of topics like literary criticism, don't go for the videos which are explaining these topics in Hindi. Instead, you should refer to the authentic YouTube channels by NPTEL, or any authentic person, knowledgeable person who is uploading the video. And then there is another book like Beginning Theory by William Barry, that is also good. Now, these are only few books with which you can start, but you should proceed further, and you should also include too many other books and sources when you are preparing for literary theory. There are several ways to study the theory. I mean, to begin uh, your study, your learning of this literary theory. So you can find that how can you proceed further, because it's a very vast field. So how can you begin? Now the first one is you just go by different theories. Like if you are selecting one topic like romanticism, right? So study all the authors and critics um, who who are who have given these theories on romanticism and who influenced this theory, right? Then we can go with historical chronology, like the way you have historical ages of English literature, like Elizabethan age, Puritan age. Like this, we have also different periods of literary criticism. So you can go with historical chronology and study one by one. Then there are some influential works like Structure, Sign, and Play. So this is an influential work. We need to know everything about the work. Okay, so this way we can select some of the works and study them in detail. And then authors and critics, they are also important to begin our study with. And then of course terms, for which we have to refer Glossary of Literary Terms by Amateur Grants. uh, Today we are going to study this with this historical chronology, because this is the easiest way to begin with, and we are not going to miss anything if we are selecting this way to study. So, as we have different ages of English literature, there are different ages of criticism as well. So, it begins with classical criticism. Uh, in classical criticism, you have Aristotle Plato debate, and in medieval criticism, you have different critics. Of course, these names are very familiar to you, like neoclassical, romanticism. So, it is a chronology of literary theory. Then comes, we have to go thoroughly uh, when you are selecting one age literary criticism, then study how many critiques are there, you need to study in detail, right? So how many works are there? There are some very influential works, and they used to ask us questions from this. first one is Plato. I hope you must have studied this Plato Aristotle debate in your MA or graduation. So Plato is the first one to arouse this debate of my masses in his Republic, because he has imagined this ideal state in which he has written that uh, poets should be banished from this ideal state, imagined utopian state, because they are liars, and what art is doing is it is taking us away from truth, right? So truth is something different. Truth is something like idea is that it is considered as the original one, and then we have material, which is removed from reality or original idea. Like we have idea of something, and then we turn it to something. Like if we have idea of making a chair, then idea is considered as original. Then the material form of the chair is removed from reality, and then comes from this material art or painting of chair is considered as once again removed from truth or removed from original idea, right? So in this way he says that art is uh, taking us away from original truth. That's why he considers poets as liars. And in answer to that, Aristotle uh, argues against this Plato's theory that poets are not liars, of course, because they are not claiming to represent truth. They are just presenting uh, one of the representation of idea, right? So we cannot say that poets should be banished from the ideal state. They are taking us near to truth. And this mimesis means imitation. So Plato has also said that any art is imitation, and Aristotle says that imitation is so common because right from our birth we are learning everything from imitating something. So imitation is so common, it is not something bad, right? So in response to Plato, Aristotle is replying in favor of art and literature in particular. And then we have poetics, in which Aristotle defines a tragedy. Now, this is for the first time Aristotle is considered as a critic who is defining any art form. So here Aristotle has given a definition of tragedy. Like tragedy is an imitation of these and that. So this I assume that you must have studied Aristotle's definition of tragedy in detail, and this he gives in one of his works called Ethics. And he has also written another work that is called Rhetoric, but that is of least important here. Then comes Horace. Horace has discussed on poetic form and style of poetry in his work Ars Poetica. And in the same work, he was the first one to criticize poets. So uh, he has written a discussion on different poets of his times, right? So this is for the first time that someone written about not only works or criticism, but the authors as well. So in his Ars Poetica, he is giving detailed notes on uh, contemporary poets. And then Longinus is considered as the first romantic critic, or very influential for romanticism, because he was the one who discussed sublime style of literature. Sublime language or sublime style means something which provokes surprise or shock. So his idea of sublime is that uh, the style of writing should be sublime, and it should provoke, uh, and it should elevate some feelings in the minds of readers, right? So it is not that much common. And he has also given sources of sublimity. He is discussing five sources of sublimity in his On the Sublime. In that set, questions in these kind of exams, they used to ask questions from this. On the Sublime is a very popular work by Longinus. So these four writers, critiques, philosophers are considered they belong to classical criticism. Right? Now these are classical critics, and these are the works by them and the theories they have given. They are the pioneers of literary criticism. Then comes medieval and Renaissance criticism. Here also, Dante, if you have heard the name of this poet, Dante has written very popular work called Inferno, and this work is also very popular, the Divine Comedy, in which he is talking about poetry and language. So, how language of poetry should be, this he is discussing in his the Divine Comedy. Here, in this medieval age, there are not that much, I mean, too many critics, because it was also considered as a dark age. So we have not too many critics from this medieval age. So let us move forward with Renaissance criticism. Of course, Renaissance was age of an you can say patriotism, and it was also an age of great production and drama. So we have Sir Philip Sidney, who is talking in defense against poetry. Now, this is very interesting. Sir Philip Sidney's contribution in literature is notable, and as a critic, also his arguments in defense against poetry was very remarkable. He has written this apology for poetry, in which he is answering, he is arguing against claim that poets are liars. Or once again, he is following Aristotle, the way that Aristotle has answered Plato. So here also he is doing the same. He is favoring Aristotle and answering another man called Stephen Gosson. He is replying to one pamphlet called School of Abuse. School of Abuse by Stephen Gosson in his apology for poetry. Now, see, in classical age as well, Plato was claiming that literature is uh, not valuable art form. And here also Stephen Gosson, and there are many other people who still believe that uh, poetry should be banished, or literature is like it's like not that much important for the society, right? So here Sir Philip Sidney presents some of the arguments in favor of poetry, in favor of literature, with denying the claim of Stephen Gosson. So here also he says that poetry is better than philosophy and history, because if poets are lying, if you're claiming that poets are the liars, then uh, historians also lie, and philosophers are also doing the same. So there is no difference. At least we can say that poets are not claiming to offer the truth. So these arguments are considered as very influential for later critics. Then comes Johnson, the contemporary of William Shakespeare, and we know him as who has written comedy of humors. But of course, we cannot neglect that he has also written one essay, or you can say that work of criticism, that is Timber or Discoveries, in which he is discussing conduct and conscience in the practice of literature. This is a uh, very interesting idea that he says in his book. Now, he says that as we have good and bad moral values, so in literature also there is a good literature and bad literature. I mean, there are some valuable things that a writer should follow. So he is discussing things, four influential uh, things, that is called conducts. Conducts means must follow. Like the poet should be a poet by nature or by expertise or by study or by imitation. So these are the things that should be, right? So there is these code of conduct. This is the right. So conduct of good writing, and conscience means uh, which are the things that poet or writer should do and should avoid. So this is called conscience, means to produce a which things are to be followed. So these are some of the ideas that Ben Jonson gives in Close Words. Now, this you can also include in non-fiction, as in net exams. You have one topic or one unit of non-fiction, right? So all these literary criticism and non-fictions are closely associated with each other. Then comes neoclassical and romantic criticism. All these names are very much familiar to you, like John Dryden, Samuel Johnson, Alexander Pope, and then romantic criticism. Here in neoclassical age, of course, you know some of the features that how they were following classical rules. And it is said that if you cannot write in heroic couplet, then you are not considered as a poet even. And to produce a poetry, one has to read all the classics. So classics written by this Homer and Virgil, they are considered as very uh, basic things, uh, must be studied by authors. And John Dryden was the first one who has started the discussion on drama, because see, why it happened, because in 1660 theaters were reopened with this restoration of Charles II, and then it was a need that people should go in theaters and promote English dramas. So Dryden was just presenting his thesis or his ideas on why English dramas better than any other dramas. So it was like advertising and promoting something. So Dryden was doing the same thing in discussion in his essay a dramatic poesy. It is a very influential work because in this, John Dryden has imagined four characters, fictional characters, and it is written in a form of a dialogue. Here you find that these four characters are discussing on topics. Two characters are discussing ancient dramas versus modern dramas. One there's Kreitz, there is a name of the character Kreitz represents ancient drama, and Eugenius presents modern drama, and there is a debate and dialogues, arguments in favor and against of ancient and modern dramas. Similarly, Dryden also discusses French versus English dramas and blank verse versus heroic verse. I mean, these are that uh, he is discussing in his essay of dramatic poesy. So this how he begins the debate on drama, and this becomes very popular in not only in his age, but even today people are studying his essay on dramatic poesy. Then comes Samuel Johnson. Dr. Samuel Johnson is also famous for giving us first English dictionary, and he has written autobiographical criticism because he has written lives of poets. Lives means he has written biographies of too many writers, and not only this one, but he has written prefaces to his lives, and this is very interesting to study because in his preface he is giving a biography, not only biography of writers, but then he is noting down the notable works of the writer, as well as he's presenting his criticism of the writer's works. So that's why preface is the first, a very influential work which presents a criticism on individual works. So to the lives is collection of essays, or you can say that it's a work on criticism by Samuel Johnson. And this kind of criticism is said autobiographical criticism because he is beginning from the biography of the writer, and then uh, the criticism of their individual works. He has also published a collection of essays called The Rambler, and then he has also joined sensation of the time that is called Shakespeare criticism. So he has written preface to Shakespeare. It's a very essay in which again he is presenting counter arguments to the claim of one critic, and the name of the critic is Voltaire, who said that or who has written that Shakespeare was not a good writer. So he is writing in favor of Shakespeare and presenting counter argument against Voltaire's criticism of Shakespeare. Right? So this preface to Shakespeare was also influential essay by Samuel Johnson. In New Classical Age, there was a trend of Shakespeare criticism. So here you find that not only Samuel Johnson, but Alexander Pope has also written preface to the works of Shakespeare. Here he has edited Shakespeare's works, and he has also, presented his ideas and criticism on Shakespeare. So it is also said that Pope was the first one, or you can say first editor of Shakespeare's works. See, all these things are happening in a neoclassical only. So there was a trend of writing about or criticizing Shakespeare. So Alexander Pope was the first editor. Nobody before him has edited works of Shakespeare. So Alexander Pope was the first editor of Shakespeare's works. Not only this one, but he has regularized meters and forms of Shakespeare's verses. So he says that uh, in the folio, whoever has collected Shakespeare's works, they must have corrupted, they must have included something written by them in the works of Shakespeare, or they must have edited the way they want to. So he tried to remove these kind of corruption in the works of Shakespeare. Instead of this, he has regular meter and form of the verses, like sonnets written by Shakespeare. So this is the task of editor he has done uh, about Shakespeare, or in the works of Shakespeare. Then he has also written this essay on criticism, that is the most popular work by him, in which he is discussing what criticism is, as well as he is also discussing duties of a critic, means which things critique should do, duties of critique, how critic should be, right? So these are the things he is discussing in essay on criticism. Uh, till the days of Pope, we can find that how different writers were presenting their criticism on some of the works instead of what criticism is. But Alexander Pope was again the first one to present the idea on literary criticism, that criticism should be like this. So he is also talking about the value of criticism, that why criticism is necessary. The way we watch film reviews, the way we prefer to go to watch some of the films after watching the reviews, after watching the recommendation. Similarly, criticism is one of the ways that defines good literature and bad literature, and that's why criticism is necessary, according to Pope. And there comes romantic criticism, and of course, there are least critiques, list of writers uh, who have contributed in a romantic movement. So these two, William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge, were the influential one. William Wordsworth has given theory of poetry in his preface to lyrical ballads. Again, he was the first one to, I mean, not the first one, but he was the one to join. Uh, he was the one to join Dante in telling that how the language should be. I mean, which kind of language poets should select while writing their work. So he was the one to give theory of poetry as well as uh, language and literature. Now, in theory of poetry, you must have studied the definition of poetry, like poetry is spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, right? So, this is the definition, this is the base thing that he is discussing about in poems. Not only this one, but William Wordsworth was the one who talked about how poetry is written or which things are necessary for poetry. So uh, it is called substance of poetry. Substance of poetry. That's the one he discusses instead of just criticizing the work, any of the poems, but he says that this how poetry should be written. This is the theory of poetry. And in his lyrical ballads, he talks about that a language should be uh, very common. The way common man is speaking or using the language, this should be the same. The language of common man as well as language of poetry should be the same one. So that's what he discusses in lyrical ballads. And again, S.T. Coleridge is also notable critic. He was the one who joins Longinus and discusses the theory of imagination, nature of imagination, and value of imagination in literary works. He was the one to define and to bifurcate between imagination and fancy. He says that imagination is something higher than fancy, and fancy is very primary. I mean, a person does not have to effort much to have fancy. We can have daydreams and we can pass our time, but imagination is something that we need to work very hard on it. And it is organized structure, imagination, and he is also giving two kinds of imagination, primary and secondary. And secondary imagination is valuable and needed for any work of art, construction of any work of art. So this how he is the first one to merge, uh, you can say, psychology and philosophy in literature, because these concepts of imagination and fancy, they are related to psychology. So he was the one to bring psychology in literary criticism. And apart from this, he has also coined the term like willing suspension of disbelief in his work Biographia Literaria. So this kind of questions are asked, that who has coined the term suspension of disbelief. So it was St. Coleridge who has coined the term in his work. And then Victorian and 20th century criticism. These two are very influential critics, Matthew Arnold. Uh, Now, these two writers you need to study in detail, because they can ask any question from any of these works. All works are equally important. Study, either it is study of poetry. He is defining a touchstone method. I mean, this is the concept he has given. It is method of literary criticism that he preferred, that he has invented touchstone method. Culture and anarchy, that is also influential essay. He studied cultural studies, so it is the beginning or pioneering essay, Culture and Anarchy, in which he is defining what is culture, and that's why he is considered as cultural critic. Essays in criticism and function of criticism at present time, all are very important essays and works that needs to be studied in detail. And again, T.S. Eliot, of course, these two works are not enough. We have to study all the concepts given by T.S. Eliot. Tradition and individual talent is an essay in which he is discussing importance of tradition, the importance of his having historical sense, and individual talent. In the same essay, he is also defining the idea of disinterestedness or impersonalization. Similarly, in function of criticism as well, he is talking about too many terms. And T.S. Eliot has also coined too many terms like objective, correlative, uh, or a disassociation of sensibility. So, for these two authors, Arnold and T.S. Eliot, requires to be studied in detail with each and every influential works they have produced. And some other theories are there, but of course we do not have enough time for this. And I know that it is a Sunday, so I am not going to take you much time about this. But there are several debates and several theories that emerged after Victorian age, or you can say post-Victorian age, like in the second half of Victorian age, that is called a debate on art and morality. And there emerged two major concepts like art for art's sake and art for life's sake. It means there are two types of critics. One preferred that art is for instruction, for a moral purpose. It should teach something. So this phrase became very popular, art for life's sake, including Matthew Arnold. Arnold was the one who believed in the instructional purpose of literature or art. And we have art for life's sake, sorry, art for art's sake, that is a very popular phrase, uh, and it got influenced by aestheticism, the movement of aestheticism. And there are too many writers who followed it, like uh, the writer of Picture of Dorian Gray, Oscar Wilde, who has written a controversial novel called The Picture of Dorian Gray. And there were many other poets and painters who followed this art for art's sake, who believed that the purpose of art is simply for entertainment, for aesthetic delight, and not to instruct anything, not to give moral uh, lessons to the readers. So this is this is the debate going on in Victorian age. Similarly, there was expressionism, a movement related to painting. In Victorian age, there were some movements which were closely associated with um painting, the art of uh, visual art, of course. And there was one critic called Croce. The pronunciation is Croce, and he has also given theories of expressionism. So that we need, I mean, that you need to refer from this glossary of literary terms. And then there was rise of new criticism in 20th century. New criticism, it is called a textual criticism because there were four kinds of literary theories. Like the first one is which prefers historical background or writer, which focuses on writer, who is the writer, and this how they study the work. A second prefers text, that textual analysis is necessary. So this archetypal criticism and new criticism followed this textual analysis. So they put text in center, not author. Third kind of criticism focuses on reader. That what is the impact of uh, reading on the reader. So after writing something, writer is not important, not even this text, but text becomes text because reader is reading something. So meaning is generated by reader and not the author. So they put reader in center, like reader response theory and role of arts from text to theory. And there were some post World War second theories which centers on reader. And the fourth one is context is important. Means context is defining the text or giving meaning. Some theories like post-colonial or feminism, they focus on context. That meaning is contextual, not the text or author or reader is defining, but it is just the context, the background, the setting is important for the theory. So these are some of the ways that theories work. So there's archetypal criticism, then there is myth criticism. All these emerged in 20th century. Then there are other theories like Russian formalism, in which Roman Jacobson was the one influential critic. Victor Slovatsky was also another critic. These literary criticism you need to study in detail. You need to understand in detail to answer the questions, uh, which are very much twisted, and they demand detailed understanding of these kind of theories. And of course, transcendentalism, American transcendentalism, that Henry David Thoreau, uh, the writer, is associated with. So, transcendentalism was also the one theory that is favorite of this kind of exams. So they always ask questions from this transcendentalism. That is American theory, but of course we cannot miss to study this in detail, right? And then of course these romanticism and classicism. These are the theories which includes not just English authors, but many other authors and references like Goethe. And so there are different influential authors and critiques that influence these theories and closely associated with English literary criticism. So these need to be studied in detail. So these are the theories, and there are too many other theories that we cannot miss, that we must include in literary theories before the World War II. So post World War theories, that is not our concern, but even in the pre-war theories are also very important to do. Now, as I told you that there are various ways to revise the theories. We can also classify them. When you are preparing for these kind of exams, you need to be very clear that there are several debates, there are several ideas that critics discuss. So you can also make this kind of tabular forms, because tabular charts and graphics, they are very useful to remember something. So there's classical debate now who uh, I mean uh, which critiques in this classical debate of the place of literature, right? Like poets are liars, or the claims on uh, art or literature. So, who were the one who joined this debate, and who were the one who answered them, who argued about that? So, Aristotle and Philip Sidney was the one who answered to this debate on place of literature or the importance of poets. And then comes the debate on language, means the language of literature, how it should be. So in this debate, we can find Dante, who gave importance to vernacular. Vernacular language should be used by the authors, but not the language which is used by common man. This is the difference between Dante and Wordsworth's theories. Like Dante said that vernacular should be used, but it should be not that much common. The language of literature should not be uh, same the way the farmer is speaking. So that's the difference. And Wordsworth said that it should be the same. The language of common man should be language of poetry. So in this language and literature debate, Dante and Wordsworth were uh, shared their inputs. In this debate of imagination and romanticism, because romanticism values imagination too much, we can find Longinus was the first one, first romantic critic who has talked about elevated style, elevated, uh, you can say, a sublime style of literature. And he has talked about five influential things which influence the literary style. It is of higher order. You know, literature is higher than other art or other disciplines. In this debate, we can find Coleridge, who has defined fancy and imagination. Then Getty was the one who influenced the movement of Romanticism, and Getty influenced other critiques uh, of Romanticism. Then, purpose of literature, that what should be the purpose of literature, like art for art's sake or art for life's sake. It is defining moral standards. I mean, how it is influential to society. So these are the two debates prevailing in Victorian age. And then comes this Shakespeare criticism, which were there in 18th century especially. But then we can find that Coleridge has also tried his hand on Shakespeare criticism. So it's not just, I mean, these are some of the minor matters but very important one. Coleridge has also talked about Shakespeare and favored him. So he joined this Shakespeare criticism group, in which Samuel Johnson and Alexander Pope was there to save Shakespeare, to edit Shakespeare, and Coleridge has also talked about Shakespeare in his essays. So this how you can bifurcate literary theories uh, and different isms. So here we are ending. If you have any question, or if you want to ask something, then you can ask so that we can discuss. But I hope you must have studied some of the theories in your syllabus, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have to go with chronology that from the very classicism, from the very first critique like Plato, Aristotle, even Socrates was also the one. Uh, from that critique to the latest one, like the cultural studies, the latest. So all these critics you need to include. Even you can also combine these two units like non-fiction and literary criticism and consider some of the influential essays by these critiques and authors. So you have to select a way historical chronology. You can also divide them in different groups, like who were the critiques of expressionism, who were the critics of romanticism, classicism, and study one by one. But when you saw the papers, you will find that which were the favorite ones. જે પણ પેપર કાઢે છે એને ગમતું critic કયો છે that you can get very easily and focus on these kind of critiques and their works, right? Do you have any question? Okay, so sorry for spoiling your Sunday, and I wish you very best. And I wish that there will be too many other students who will pass upcoming NET and SET exam, right? Okay, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining
ma'am.
on this holiday. Okay, goodbye, all of you, and best of luck.